Certainly the new generation coming out is completely comfortable with all digital tools and would find it very odd to try to practice with paper. They wouldn't know what to do. They've never known a time that was any different. Um, and when I think about how we need to be training our medical students today, it's less about training them to write code or be experts in informatics and more about almost the second question, which is how do we instill upon them the importance of the physician-patient relationship? How do we get them to be good at reimagining the work? How do they understand the nature of the work, the importance of systems, and their role as leaders in making the systems they work in work better? Now, some of that may be imposed on them by the big healthcare system, but I suspect that a lot of the work here will be very much in what we think of as the micro unit, meaning it's on their ward that they've got to figure out how do we do this thing, how do we admit a patient or discharge a patient or prep a patient for the operating room. And to me, the parts of training that need to change are to impress upon young physicians and give them skills that relate to their role as leaders of teams, that relate to interdisciplinary care, that relate to understanding what technology can and can't do, that relate to being a leader in change and how does change happen, and that's everything from management to psychology. All of those things I think are core to training. They're things I learned nothing about in medical school. And here we're spending a lot of energy trying to think about that. One of the more interesting questions is how much do they have to know, meaning do they need to know facts anymore? And of course, they sometimes will say, why do I need to memorize that? I can always Google it. And the answer, I think, is that even in an electronic environment, until we're completely replaced, and we can talk about that later, it's simply impractical to look every single thing up. And a good doctor, even in a very computerized environment, has to begin with a core foundational set of knowledge that allows them to answer most questions themselves and recognize when they need to go and look something up, when they need to access digital tools. So I think there can be less memorization than I certainly had to do, but I think the notion that they don't have to know anything anymore because it's all in the machine is stupid. And that's a balance we have to get right. Digitization inevitably changes the nature of expertise and the relationship between experts and non-experts. And so that patients now, of course, can and often do look up their symptoms before they see you, and or look up their genetic profile or whatever it is. And you go on the internet and you see some things that are really smart and allow some patients to be almost as smart about it as we are. And you see some things that are ridiculous and they can't tell the difference. So we're going to have to confront that. One of the things that computerization inevitably does is democratize expertise. It allows non-experts to become more expert than they were. In general, I think it's a good thing, as long as there are guardrails around it. And it also is a challenge for us because we're going to have to prove our worth. In a way, patients will have options to get medical care in a very different way than I've got to go see the doctor, I've got to go to the hospital. They'll have telemedicine options, they'll have artificial intelligence options. And if we're going to be worth the money, we're going to have to prove that we really are worth the money. In terms of the empathy part of it, I actually think that's one of the unique things that we can offer, because I think some of the things that traditionally you depended on a physician to do will be able to be done either by the technology or by less expensive people using technology to make them better, to allow them to practice at a higher level. And we see that now where many of our patients go to urgent care centers in the US and don't see a doctor, they see a nurse practitioner, and the nurse practitioner can look certain things up on the computer. To me, that's okay. To me, the game here is not how do we keep all the doctors employed. It is how do we figure out ways of delivering the best care at the lowest cost. And I think that's inevitably got to be, patients doing things themselves, lesser trained and less expensive people doing some things that right now doctors have to do, and doctors having a narrower set of things that they do, but ones that they're uniquely trained to do. When you think about the amount of time that we all waste and spend time doing things that are way below our training, I think if we can get rid of some of that stuff, I think that would be a good thing. And one of the things I think we're uniquely trained to do is help patients deal with uncertainty, talk to patients about life-threatening illnesses. Those are things that they should be our special sauce. I don't think those are going to be replaced by computers anytime soon.